Chapter 24. Flint. Jay glanced at Blue, then cupped his hands round his mouth. "Pip-it," he called. "Take Blue here to the hot springs. She needs a warm bath." Blue clung to Flint. "You come too, my brother, bath." Flint ushered Blue towards Pip-it, a little boy with dreadlocks and green-spotted shoulder feathers. "I need to talk with Jay. Go along now, Blue." But Blue shook her head. "With you, Big Brother, and Pebble." For a moment, Flint ground his teeth. Then he remembered Blue's face beneath the Devil's dance floor and how far she had come from all that she knew and loved. And he saw what was really important. "I won't be long," he said to Esker and Jay, and as he walked hand in hand with his little sister after Pip-it, he couldn't help feeling that something about Jay was oddly familiar. He racked his brains as he crossed the cavern, but his thoughts were broken by a voice from the shadows. "Strange kind of warriors," Rook muttered. Flynn tensed as he heard the words, but he kept on walking, out of the main atrium and along another tunnel that widened into a very different chamber. It was smaller than the first, and when Flint saw that it was filled with a dozen bubbling hot springs jutting out from the rocks, he forgot his anger. He grinned at Blue, and moments later they were submerged in the steaming water. Even Pebble found himself kicking about in a smaller pool, and Flint wondered then at all the things he'd seen since meeting Esker. It had been a detour worth following, after all. They dried themselves with feathered blankets, then slipped back into their furs and returned to the main chamber, where the tribe was sitting round a long table piled with food. Balapan watched from a ledge up among the dream catchers, only shifting her gaze to snatch at the mice she found scattering through the cavern, while Flint and Blue took a seat next to Esker, up by Jay at the head of the table. The feather tribe ate quietly, now and again stealing glances at the newcomers and sharing thoughts in guarded whispers. Jay swallowed a mouthful of food. "We plan to hide here for as long as it takes for the Ice Queen's rule to crumble. We're quick moving and we're quiet. We can stay one step ahead of her and the Tusk Guards in the Lost Chambers." Esker fiddled with her fork. "The Ice Queen's rule isn't just going to crumble if she fails in her plans. Not without me finding this frost horn and claiming the Sky Song. Because when the midnight sun rises, she and all her prisoners at Winterfang will perish." Jay's face paled and Esker went on. "Staying hidden isn't an option, and when I blow the horn I'm going to need help. I'm going to need your tribe to stand alongside me to fight when the time comes." Flint winced. Esker had gone straight in and now there was no turning back. "The battle at Winterfang was lost because our parents didn't really know what they were up against," Flint said quietly. "They tried to fight an Ice Queen with spears and bows, but that's not enough. We need to call upon," he lowered his voice, "magic this time. Upon the frost horn, the Sky Song, your dreams, and Flint's inventions," Esker said firmly. Flint cringed into his furs. They hadn't even reached the main course, and he and Esker were already talking about magic and inventions. But before Jacob replied to any of this, another voice answered from the end of the table. Rook. She flung her bowl aside and stood up, her eyes scanning the rest of the tribe. "That wanderer there wants us to stand alongside her and fight with magic, the very thing that tore this kingdom apart. She thinks that with the help of our songs she'll find the forgotten Frosthorn and use it to defeat the Ice Queen." Rook gestured around the cavern. "She wants us to risk all this for the sake of a magic that no one believes in anymore." There were mumblings from the feather tribe as Rook's poison worked deeper. "So what do you say, Jay? You've always told us to lay low, out of sight and out of danger." Jay said nothing for a while, then he cleared his throat. "I wonder, Rook, whether Esker and Flint are right. Hiding away until the midnight sun passes isn't the answer anymore. Not when it means risking the lives of all our families trapped in Winterfang." He paused. "Maybe we do in fact have a fight ahead of us, and, if so, We might need to start trusting in Erkenwald's magic again. The candlelight glimmered over Rook's feathers. We were managing fine before your guests showed up. What if they were tailed here by tusk guards? What if the Ice Queen finds us? The feather tribe exchanged anxious glances. Or, Rook spat, what if fighting means the end for us, like it did for so many of our parents? The boys and girls huddled round the table nodded. We might be eaten by wolverines, cried one. Or cursed by the Ice Queen's shaman, said another. And before long the tribe had erupted again. Shouts, threats, fists banging. Rook sat down and smirked at Jay. And that is what happens when you let outsiders in. Jay tried to bring everyone back to order, to make them understand that their tribe wasn't something fixed and closed, that it was open to strange dreams, fur people, and even a girl with a golden eagle by her side. But Rook's words had stirred the feather tribe's fear, and it brought the worst of their hearts out into the open. Blue raised her hands to cover her ears, and Eska turned frightened eyes to Flint. What do we do now? She said in a cracked whisper. Flint thought back to Whitefur's words. Tell them about your voice. Eska reached a hand up to her throat. My voice is nothing compared to all their shouting. Nothing. Flint shook his head. Then tell them about the Sky Song's power. Tell them about the things that Whitefur said your voice can do when you find the Frosthorn. Silence the tribes, command animals, and shake the skies, Eska whispered. Good, Flint replied. Now louder, much louder. Beside her, Jay leant forward. Tell them, Eska. They might be my tribe, but they're not listening to me. Perhaps they need to hear it from someone else. Eska looked at the raging crowd. I don't think it'll work. There's too many of them and my voice isn't big enough. Flint shook his head. You just need one person to listen, then others will follow. Eska stood up, her knees shaking, and cleared her throat. Flint thought of the Ice Queen winding away Eska's voice, and he knew that when the anthem came again they'd hear it, even though they were in the middle of a mountain, and that afterwards Eska's voice would be weaker still. But for now, she had words, and she needed to speak them with all the force left inside her. Tell them, Eska, he said firmly. The Sky Song isn't something that belongs to worn-out legends, Eska cried. A few children looked up at her, but most continued to jeer and shout. Keep going, Flint urged. It's the tune the North Star played on the Frosthorn to breathe life into Erkenwald all those years ago, she shouted. And it's the only thing that can defeat the Ice Queen now. She paused. I may not remember anything from my past, but I know this. We only have 3 days to stop the Ice Queen cursing Erkenwald and wiping out the fur and feather tribes forever. But together, with my friends and the help of Erkenwald's magic, I will find the Frosthorn and claim the Sky Song. And when I do, I will use my voice to stop the Ice Queen and put an end to the divide between tribes. Some of the feather tribe heckled, and for a second Flint wondered how on earth Eska was going to break through their distrust and hatred. But then he noticed that others were listening, and Eska was forging on. I will silence the tribes, command animals, and shake the skies. More heads turned to listen, and Balapan leapt from her perch and circled in the air above them all. I may not have a whole tribe behind me, Eska cried. I may not have words that you think amount to much now, but I won't give in. I won't back down. I have a voice and I'm going to make it count. She had the tribe's attention now. The chamber was absolutely silent. Because we have a kingdom to protect and families to bring home, and even in the face of an Ice Queen whose anthem reaches every corner of Erkenwald, our voices matter more. I will find the Frosthorn, and I will blow it from the stars, and as one tribe, we will beat the Ice Queen. Balapan's call rang out then, like a shuddering battle cry, and suddenly the feather tribe were on their feet, whooping and cheering. And Flint smiled at Eska. Some people collected shields of bark, others collected eggshells and feathers, but Esker, she collected people. Blue ran round the table and hugged Esker tight, and at their feet Pebble began chasing his tail and yapping excitedly. Jay raised an eyebrow at Rook, and that is what happens when you let outsiders in. Then, to Flint, Esker and Blue's surprise, the tribe began to sing a slow, lilting tune that reminded Flint of the way the wind soughed through the trees in deep roots. And with every word that sounded, Flint realised that this was a tribe who, contrary to Rook's words, did still believe in magic. Up north before the groaning splinters, the grey man stands up tall. He's been there now for many winters, though snow and hail does fall. The cliffs are steep, we can but warn, gravestones are often laid. So those who seek for the lost frost horn must seek the grey man's aid. And though the Ice Queen's anthem began as soon as the Feather Tribe finished singing, weaseling its way into the depths of the lost chambers, it was a soulless drone compared to what Flint, Esker and Blue had just heard. Flint reached down and ruffled Pebble's head. We have a lead now. We need to find the grey man before the groaning splinters, the icebergs way up north. Esker rubbed her throat as the Ice Queen's anthem wound its way round her windpipe, leaving her voice almost threadbare. We'll leave as soon as it's light. Jay nodded. We're behind you, Esker. When you find the frost horn and blow it from the stars, we'll know to come out of hiding to help you. He paused. I don't suppose either of you has a plan for how to reach the stars. Esker hung her head, and Blue blew through her lips, but Flint looked at Jay with glittering eyes. I have an idea, he said. Esker stepped forward. An invention? Flint avoided her eyes. Possibly. He fiddled with his cuff. I don't like talking about my ideas until I've properly thought them through, just in case they don't work. Jay nodded. What do you need? Is there anything we can help with? As a matter of fact, yes. Flint picked up a snow goose feather from the ground. It was white and large, and he ran a finger up and down its length. How many of these do you have? Jay grinned. Thousands. Can I take some? Jay picked up another and pressed it into Flint's hand. You can take them all. And it was then that Flint recalled where he had seen Jay before. Years and years ago, when he was little more than a scrap, his pa had taken him hunting and out on the foothills before the Nevercliffs. They had shared food with the Feather Chief and his son. Flint tilted his head towards Jay. I remember you, he said. Jay was thoughtful for a moment, and then he smiled. Round the campfire, when we were very small, he said slowly. We ate snow hare and caribou before everything. He paused, changed. You had lost your quiver of arrows in the river that day, and I lent you mine. Flint nodded, and Jay reached out and put his hand on Flint's shoulder. From this day on, you and your tribe will always be welcome here, and if we cross paths hunting, we will stop and eat and share stories. Flint felt a heaviness inside him lift at the warmth of Jay's words. Erkenvale was that little bit closer to the kingdom he remembered before the Ice Queen arrived and turned it upside down. But while Flint, Esker, Blue and the Feather Tribe busied themselves collecting snow goose feathers and clearing away dinner, Rook brushed past the moonflet in the entrance tunnel. She clutched the wolverine fang in a hot, angry fist, and with the sound of the Ice Queen's anthem ringing in her ears, she stalked out into the starless night.